Not much happened through the rest of the school day. Junpei-kun forgot his lunch, so I passed him one of my sanis. Persona 3 Fairly English Story is a 2009 fanfiction based on Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3. It was made by a British writer named SamJaz, and it ran for 108 chapters, 477,000 words. I followed this story religiously as it was coming out. It was 2009. I was 14 at the time. I was a huge fan of Persona 3 and 4. This story is a complete retelling of Persona 3. The premise of Persona 3 Fairly English Story is such. Persona 3 Fez, only Minato is English, hence the title. Then Minato cheats the game, so the game cheats back. So Minato cheats the world. I don't think that was always the description of it, but this story starts as a sort of self-insert retelling of Persona 3 before it diverts and evolves into something very crazy. It gets very Ready Player One. No, it's been 15 years since I've read this, but from what I remember, the story is largely, hey, I like Persona 3 and I'm going to insert all those other cool things that I like into the story, and also I'm going to show you the version of the story that I like and enjoy and I imagine, because video games are largely about imagination, and like, you know, this is SamJaz's interpretation of what he would have loved the story to be. But yeah, a lot of it is like a teenager bashing his action figures together. Like, here's Son Goku, and then my Megatron. And, like, it's a lot of that. But I want to read it again, and I want to share it with you guys. I want to share it with because I looked it up, and there's no videos on this. There's no videos about this fucking fan fiction anywhere. Let me look this up. What the hell is this? The Ultimate Recap Persona 3? There's no videos about this frankly legendary fan fiction. I don't know that much about fan fiction, but I think at the time, as far as Persona 3 fandoms go, this was like one of the biggest stories. The story, if I do commit to reading the entire thing, it's 477,000 words. That's about the same length as the King Killer Chronicles, The Wise Man's Fear, which is like 900 plus pages of pure fantasy gold. This is gonna be tough, I think, especially reading it out loud. I read this whole story, 108 chapters, on the PlayStation 3 browser, because that was the only thing I had to browse the internet with. It was awful. How far we've come though. I got 2 monitors, one of them, and only one of them is secondhand. We got our green tea. It's time to read Persona 3 Fairly English Story, Chapter 1. It's just called Chapter 1. And then there's epic log. A blue butterfly appeared in my mind. I knew it didn't speak, but I still heard the words in my mind. Time never waits. It delivers all equally to the same end. You, who wish to safeguard the future, however limited it may be, you will be given 1 year. Go forth, never falter, with your heart as your guide. I opened my eyes, waking from the weird dream. I heard the announcer's voice. Fuck, no apostrophe, bro. I can't highlight? The next station is Iwatodai. Please take all your belongings with you. We apologize for the delay. Sighing, I stood up and grabbed my bag and walked to the door of the train as it began to slow down. Might as well introduce myself. My name's Minato Arizoto. In Persona 3 Reload, he's officially called Makoto Yuki, but at the time, the Persona 3 manga, the protagonist's official name was Minato Arizato. And I think that SamJaz here accidentally wrote it as Arizoto, and then he decided to just roll with it. I'm 17 and from West Yorkshire. Yeah, I know, Minato is a weird name for a Yorkshireman, and Arizoto isn't even an English name, but that's because my dad was Japanese. Me and my mom lived with him until I was 7. They died. They died, and I was brought up by my aunt and uncle back in England. As the train ground to a halt, I remembered once again just how screwed up I was. Nothing ever scared me. I even watched The Exorcist when I was 10. The Exorcist, it's not, it's all lowercase. I even watched The Exorcist when I was 10 and didn't even flinch. Fuck, he's so cool. I rarely showed any emotion unconsciously other than tiredness, even when I was wide awake. As I stepped off the train, I saw the clock and was thankful I had jet lag. If my body didn't think it was 4 in the afternoon, I would probably be knackered right now. I need a British person to read this. I'm not Brit. Oh, I would probably be knackered right now. That's not even good. That's not the worst. That's the worst British accent ever. That was when the lights died and everyone turned to coffins. As usual, the walls started bleeding and my MP3 player was silent. I checked the clock again and compared it to my watch. It was midnight here, but this probably happened around 4 or 5 back home. This would certainly make things more convenient. Before, I had enough time to get home and lock myself in a room before coffin time began, which gave me an hour to do what I wanted to do, so long as I got back to my room in time. Normally, I studied or read books, usually adventure or romance novels. I'm fairly intelligent and I've been called charming by girls and fearless by guys. But I reckon I'm just polite, and as for the fearless part, well, that's not the case. I am afraid. Okay, the fact that he was doing this as a kid, right? The fact that he calls it coffin time and he would run and lock himself in a room, that's kind of fucked up. I started walking to the dorms that would be my new home for the next couple of years. I've completed my GCSEs, but my uncle wanted me to spend some time in the country my mother fell in love with, and in. That's such an awkward sentence. My mother, in the country my mother fell in love with, and in. Fuck me, dude. Okay, hold on. What is GC? What is a GCSE? General Certificate of Secondary Education. Oh, okay, it's like a GED for England. So, here's me, complete nut job, walking through coffins and blood in the middle of the night, barely able to speak Japanese, in Japan, to go to school for the next 2 years, even though I've already got my national qualifications. Oh, I can understand Japanese fine, and read it great. It was my first language after all. It's just that I was brought up in Yorkshire. It's not an easy accent to lose. So he was born in Japan? Until I was 7. Okay, so he lived in Japan until he was 7, then he went to England. Okay, that's why okay. So, in exchange of having time for a good social life, I lack the ability to have one. Speech. Was he talking about, so like when he was a kid, coffin time would fuck up his social life? Okay. I stopped walking then. When I thought about it, I never really spoke much when I was home either. It wasn't that I didn't have much to say, I just didn't like interrupting. Come to think of it, I actually did more listening. Maybe that's why people liked talking to me. Not because I was sensitive, but because I knew what to say. I had difficulty understanding how other people didn't get this before no. but now that I thought about it, I actually put others before myself on a regular basis. Was that really so rare? I shook my head and carried on, following the map that had been sent me. I don't like this so much insight. Like, this is 109 chapters, alright? We have time to learn these things about Minato Arezzo. We don't need him to fucking tell us in the first chapter everything about his personality. I come critiquing as someone who is most likely a teenage boy. I don't know how old SamJaz was when he started writing this. He's probably like 17. I eventually got to the place. I climbed the steps and tried the door. I guess they were expecting me because it was unlocked. I stepped through the door and realized that the lights were on. This was weird. Normally anything electric died around this time. I put my bag down on the floor and, remembering my manners, took my shoes off. You're late. I've been waiting a long time for you. Wait, should I do the creepy Pharaoh's voice? Because he has like a high-pitched voice. You're late. I've been waiting a long time for you. Is that good? I don't know. I almost wet myself at the sound of another voice. I turned to see a young boy, probably aged 10, leaning on the counter beside me. The boy clicked his fingers. Clicked? He snapped? He clicked. He clicked his fingers? He didn't snap. He clicked. Why do you click your fingers? Now, if you want to proceed, suddenly in front of me, please sign your name there. I looked where he gestured, noticing a thin, red book. It's a contract, he said, as the book opened up on its own. Don't worry. All it says is that you'll take full responsibility for your actions. By this point, I was actually sweating as the boy continued. You know, the usual stuff. I'm not Yuri Lowenthal, alright? I'm not Spider-Man. Deciding to ignore how tripping this whole thing was, I looked at the contract. I, Minato Arizoto, give my word that I will take full responsibility for the consequences of my actions. Fuck! I, Minato... Fuck! I clicked my tongue! And this fucking snare drum keeps buzzing! Okay. Fuck! I can't even get through a chapter of this shit! I, Minato Arizoto, give my word that I will take full responsibility for the consequences of my decisions. It seemed suspiciously simple. What the hell? I signed it. I passed it to the boy, who held it to his chest, like a long-lost teddy bear. No one can escape time, the boy said, looking totally creepy. It delivers us all to the same end. He held the contract to his face and continued. You can't plug your ears and cover your eyes. He turned the book sideways, and it vanished, but I'd already given myself up to insanity by now. Shadows started growing around the room, and the lights started dimming. The boy lifted up a hand as he began to disappear into the darkness. And so it begins. And he was gone. Now it was back to normal crazy time, and I heard another voice. Oh shit! I can't read that, I don't know how to say that! I turned and saw a girl there speaking Japanese. I was wondering why I didn't understand her, but then I realized I was talking to that boy in English, so I wasn't expecting it. She was looking at me with intense determination, but I could tell she was scared by the way her hand was shaking. My eyes followed her hand, and holy crap, she has a gun strapped to her thigh! And what a thigh! Told you I'd never get phased. The girl began breathing heavily, and I knew it wasn't because she was tired. She suddenly grabbed her gun, and I was just about to move when I heard another voice, filled with a different breed of panic, saying, Takiba, Taishi. I wasn't expecting there to be a third person, but I knew she was telling the first girl to wait. We all froze there for a moment, and then the lights came on, and my music started playing. The first girl, a pretty cute brunette in a pink jumper, breathed a sigh of relief and smiled at the second girl, who was obviously the more in charge. She was beautiful. Her long, red hair was straightened down her face and curled down her back. She wore a ruffled blouse and a long skirt, which only heightened her attractiveness. I figured that now it was time to get my brain in gear as she approached me. Didn't think you'd arrive so late. I couldn't tell if she was speaking English or Japanese, but she continued. My name is Mitsuru Kurijo. I'm one of the students living in this dorm. I couldn't tell if she was speaking English or Japanese? What does that fucking mean? They're completely different languages, SamJaz. Whoa, I can grab the whole fucking thing! The brunette turned to Mitsuru and asked, Who's he? I felt pretty awesome, as Mitsuru explained I was a transfer student who was moving into their dorm. I could understand Japanese just as well as I could English. Ya bloody ta. What is that? What is that? I caught that she said that I'd eventually be moved to a room in the boys' dorm. The brunette, however, still looked worried. Is it okay for him to be here? It sounded like she thought I might do something, but something was off. The redhead Mitsuru smiled. I guess we'll see. She then turned to me and, gesturing to her friend, said, This is Yukari Takiba. She'll be a junior this spring, just like you. So, the earlier chapters of this fic, takes a lot of scenes from the game, and they're pretty static and just shoves SamJaz into them. Like, this dialogue here is one-to-one from the game. Anything that anybody has said that wasn't Minato was one-to-one with the original game, and I feel like this story does that for a while before it starts breaking, doing its own thing and breaking off. I could have mentioned that I had little idea of how the Japanese school system worked, other than the fact that I had to turn up on Saturday. Sucks, right? But I decided not to. Yukari bowed her head slightly and said, almost reluctantly, Hey, I could have asked her if this was really the girls' dorm, or, more importantly, why she had a gun, but I figured that I'd find out soon enough, so I settled for a good old-fashioned, nice to meet you. She seemed almost taken aback by this. Yeah, she bowed again. Nice to meet you too, this time with a smile on her face. It's getting late, so you should get some rest. Mitsuru had a way of getting our attention easily. Your room is on the second floor, at the end of the hallway. Your things should already be there. She then turned to Yukari, who seemed to take the hint and say, "Oh, I'll show you the way. Follow me." As she led me to my room, I considered my chances with the two girls. Minato Arzoto, you dog, you British dog. Yukari seemed just slightly out of my league, and I got the feeling that Mitsuru wasn't interested in any guy who couldn't keep up to her intellectual. Okay, so I'm expecting the noun intellectuality, which I'm not even sure if that's a real word, and then he used the adjective intellectually. I got the feeling that Mitsuru wasn't interested in any guy who couldn't keep up with her, who couldn't keep up to her intellectually. Before I knew it, we were there. This is it, Yukari told me. Pretty easy to remember, huh? Since it's right at the end of the hall. Yukari laughed slightly at her little joke, but it seemed almost fake. Oh yeah, make sure you don't lose your key or you'll never hear the end of it. Yup, there it is again. While I didn't have her down as one of those objects from my old school, I could still recognize fake smiles and attitudes of someone who didn't like themselves but refused to admit it. Fuck you, you judgy fuck, you don't know her. You just met her. So, any questions? Not wanting to bring up what I'd been thinking about, I decided to go for a less intrusive question. What's with the contract? Huh? Yukari was clearly surprised. What contract? I almost slapped myself on the head. It was a freaky contract that disappeared in the hands of that freaky kid like one of David Blaine's cards. The kid pulled himself a Houdini. The kid himself pulled a Houdini, which should have been a clear sign that it was just another figment of my insanity. Yukari seemed to be a bit worried about me now. Hey, can I ask you something? On your way here from the station, was everything okay? Not wanting to sound any more of a psycho that I already was, I was about to tell her it was fine, but then I remembered that she'd almost shot me during coffin time, so I decided to try to work on her. What do you mean? I asked, taking my hands out of my pockets. You know what I... Never mind. The girl smiled. It seems like you're alright. She seemed genuinely happy for me, as if I'd avoided some grim fate. Well, I'd better get going. Fuck, I can't read. I don't know how to read lines like a girl. I'm not a girl. I'm a fucking dude. I'm fucking old. With that, she began to walk away, but stopped outside the next door. She turned back. I'm sure you have other questions, but let's save them for later, okay? She flashed me a quick smile. Good night. She walked away and up the stairs. I didn't even bother to tell her that I wasn't even remotely tired yet, so I spent the next few hours unpacking my things and tried to get some sleep. Bear in mind, 4 in the morning in Japan is 8 p.m. back home. I didn't sleep. And that is the end of chapter 1 of Fairly English Story. I think I'm going to go into chapter 2 and then maybe go into 3. We'll see. I don't know at what point the story starts to get weird. I really don't remember. Now, I wasn't tired last night, but at 7 I got a knock on my door. I was fairly tired, my body still thinking it was 11 at night. Chotto, soraderu Yukari. I don't know how to say that. I shook my head back on a Tokyo track. Are you awake? He shook his head back into Japanese mode so he could translate. Are you awake? I was already dressed for school for the past few hours. I couldn't sleep, so I gave up trying around 4 and practiced my Japanese. I reckoned I was alright as long as I didn't speak more than I had to. Hello? Please answer the door or I'll get in trouble. I realized that I'd been ignoring her. I rushed to open the door. Yukari stepped into my room. Score, if I was actually Japanese. What? Good morning. Did you sleep okay? I decided that I'd be honest. Didn't. Jet lag. Should I do an English accent for all of Minato Arzoto's lines? Didn't. Jet lag. She winced. Ouch. Well, Mitsuru-senpai asked me to take you to school. We'll get some coffee along the way. Now, I don't actually drink coffee. Never really saw the point. I looked tired no matter what I did. But as she looked me up and down, I got the impression she was checking me out, so I figured, why the hell not? Sure, okay. How did British people speak? Sure. Okay? I need British friends. Fuck. Sure. Okay. I grabbed my satchel and we headed out. I can't do the accent. So now, here I am, walking to school with a girl I suspected was interested in me, but she got the coffee. I opted for the orange juice, knowing it'd do me better in the long run of the day. We talked too about our schools and how schools in Japan are different. After a few minutes, she starts leading the conversation, which let me do what I did best. Listen, our conversation continued while on the train. We seemed to be getting along, and then she said, "So, that's it. See, there it is." I looked out of the train window. There was just ocean. Huh? But then the train bent around the corner, and I had to admit the school looked pretty damn awesome. It was on an artificial island, for crying out loud. We carried on talking the rest of the way. This time Yukari was filling me in about all the teachers and clubs they have. Along the path I saw a girl pass us on a bike. "Good morning," she cried out to Yukari. "Good morning," she replied. Damn, I so have got to get myself a new bike. As we approached the gates, Yukari turned to me. "Well, this is it. We're here. Welcome to Gekkoukan High School. Hope you like it," she said with a smile. Too bloody cute she is. We walked into the building together, stopping at some lockers right by the entrance. I remembered Yukari mentioning something about shoe lockers, so these were probably it. She turned to me and spoke. "You're okay from here, right? You should go see your homeroom teacher first. The faculty office is right there to the left. And that concludes the tour. Do you have any questions before I go?" Actually, most of my questions were answered on the way here without having to ask, but I was starting to think I had a chance with this girl, so I decided to play it smooth. "Well, what class are you in?" "Me?" Yukari seemed a bit confused. "I don't know. I haven't seen the classroom assignments yet." Yukari suddenly looked worried. "Hey, about last night, don't tell anyone what you saw, okay? See you later." With that, she left. I noticed a bulletin board with some people in front of it, but my name probably wasn't on it, so I decided to follow Yukari's advice and check out the faculty office. Saw some interesting people on the way there. There was a guy in trackies talking to a girl, having a semi-argument. There was a nervous guy with glasses talking to another guy, clearly dominant, almost aggressive, but they seemed to be getting along. There was a fat guy already talking to the lady behind the tuck shop. Is that like a British term, tuck shop? Is that more like British stuff? A tuck shop is a small retailer located with either win or tuck shop is like a British term. I love you, SamJaz. I take back all the bullshit I said about you. There was some blonde guy with a fan talking to a teacher, I suppose. Someone in a samurai helmet anyways. I had a really weird mental image of the two of them with black bowl cuts and matching green jumpsuits. And I shook my head clear. I was not going to catch the otaku. I don't get it. What's that reference? I don't get that reference. I don't know. What does that mean to catch the otaku? What does that mean with the senpai? I turned around, glad I could recognize those words even though I wasn't expecting them. There was a younger lass with long hair and glasses. She was probably pretty good looking, but she was hunched over her books, an absolute cliche. She seemed absolutely terrified. Never mind. And with that, she turned and ran. I sighed and walked into the teacher's lounge. A few seconds after coming in, a teacher in a suit noticed me. "Oh, are you the new student?" she asked me. I nodded, and she checked her chart. "Minato Warazoto, 11th grade, correct?" I nod again, and she looks back at her notes. "Let's see. Wow, all the way from England, huh? And in 1999... I prepared myself for the usual. That was, what, 10 years ago? Your parents... She gasped, and I already knew what the board said. Now for the apologies and condolences. "I'm sorry, I've just been so busy, and I didn't have time to read this beforehand." "That's not all you're sorry for, but what the hey. I'm Ms. Toriumi. I teach composition. Welcome to our school." I nodded and offered my hand. She took it, seeing I preferred the English greeting over the Japanese bow. "Have you seen the classroom assignments yet?" I shook my head, putting my hands in my pocket. "You're in 2F. That's my class. But first you need to get to the auditorium. The opening ceremony will be starting soon. You go on ahead. I need to catch up on all this paperwork. She sighed and sat back down. As I left, I saw the blonde lad from before, still talking with the samurai. Oh, it's a fucking Naruto reference. Lee! Guy sensei! Lee! Guy sensei! The sound was coming from two other lads. One my height with brown hair and a taller one with a cap. Walking past them, I decided to say to them, "The flames of your youth need more kindling." The guys laughed and held up their hands. Surprised, I double-fived them. That would normally be calling them a Narutard back home, but apparently Naruto is cool in Japan. Who knew? I sighed to myself. I really need to learn how to speak Japanese well enough to use sarcasm. I ended up talking to the two on the way to the auditorium. Brown hair was called Kenji something, and hat was Junpei Iori. Both seemed like the kind of guy who the teachers said would be good students if they just apply themselves. In other words, lazy, but generally good mates. So we got along. Fuck, my throat is like fucked up. The tea isn't doing shit, SamJaz. You Brits. I concentrated through the announcements, but there was nothing really worth noting, other than I wouldn't be able to join any sports clubs for a couple of weeks. Fine with me. I doubted that they'd have any fishing or hiking clubs anyway. I switched off through the head's speech. Something told me it would be dull as a Monday afternoon. Well, it'd probably be fairly sunny over here, but I reckoned that wouldn't make the head speech any different from any of the others I've heard. Do your best. Uphold the school, reach for your dreams, and my personal favorite, don't say you can't, say you'll try. I smirked inwardly. Do or do not. There is no try. Whether you succeed or fail is out of the question. Either you put enough effort in, or you didn't. I believed in hard work over natural talent, but I also believed in having enough badassery to say what you want. I smiled inwardly again. Good old Yoda. It was a sarcastic smile, but I'd never been good at facial expressions. For all the skill I had with reading emotions, no one could read mine. I could be an awesome interrogator, or even a con man. Ever seen that show, Lie to Me? I doubt even that guy could read me. Counselors said that trauma from the car accident my parents died in retarded my emotional growth, but I knew that was a load of tripe. I was as emotionally intelligent as the next three guys put together. Actually, make that the next three Goyles. Other lads don't seem to grasp the concept. The second reason it was bull was more obvious. My parents didn't die in a car crash. Maybe they did, but that wasn't why they died. Now that was traumatizing. I was pulled out of my thoughts by the guy behind me tapping my shoulder. I turned my head so he was in my peripheral vision, and so he knew he had my attention. Should I get in here like,
"You came to school with Yukari-san this morning, right? I saw you two walking together."
why is he Australian?
"You came to school with Yukari-san this morning, right? I saw you two walking together."
I nodded.
"Hey, I have a question. Do you know if she has a boyfriend?"
I realized what this guy was getting at. He was a cowardly chap who couldn't gather the scrotum needed to ask a girl out. Then I remembered I was in Japan and that's supposed to be normal. Deciding to do the guy a favor, I shrugged.
"I see. Well, I thought you might know, but I guess not. So, how well do you know her?"
I was about to tell the guy that I only got into the country yesterday, but a teacher told us to be quiet. I shut up, but I could still hear people talking. Holy crap, that sounds totally emo and I hate everyone. I got enough of that back home because of my hair. Naturally blue. I grew it over one side of my face because I thought it looked cool. Actually, I reckon I really did it so it was harder to see my face. People stopped being concerned, going from thinking I have depression to just thinking I was a whiny emo brat. I was fine with that, so long as I didn't actually become a whiny emo brat. After the assembly, we went to our classrooms. I picked a seat right in the middle. It's the one place teachers ignore. The studious kids sat at the front, the troublemakers at the back, the daydreamers by the windows, and the kids who didn't want to be there were on the right-hand side of the classroom near the exit. Junpei sat next to me on the right, surprise, surprise, though Kenji opted for a seat closer to the back. Surprisingly, Yukari sat in front of me, behind the person front and center. I guessed from our conversation earlier that she liked school, but I thought she just had a haggle of friends. But she actually seemed serious about getting some qualifications. I could tell that Yukari was paying attention as Ms. Toriomi spoke, while Junpei's mind seemed elsewhere. I was pretty tired around 10, body thinking it was 2 in the morning, so I decided to catch some sleep. I was in the homeroom all day, and since I always looked half asleep, I figured I'd be fine as long as I didn't snore. I leaned forward on the desk and looked towards the windows to my left. Now I remembered why I grew my hair down my face. Teachers couldn't tell if I was sleeping or distracted, so I closed my eyes, deciding to get some sleep before lunch. Yo, yatsu mazametu kudasai? What? Not now, sleeping, wake me and die. Yatsu, gakko over, everyone's leaving. My brain shifted into gear and comprehended what was just said, and I was awake. Another skill I learned in school. I could go from groggy to wide awake instantly, without any noticeable change. Dude, you were out like a light all day. Man, what were you doing last night? I turned to face the fool who dared disturb my slumber. Junpei. I got into the country yesterday. I told him. Body clock still out of whack. I'm going to accept that my accent for Minato Arizoto is going to be some blend of like Cockney and Scottish and Irish and whatever else I've thrown into this concoction, because it's fucking hilarious. Oh right, what's the time difference over there? Junpei didn't actually seem that interested in me. It felt like he was just being polite so he could talk with someone. I leaned back in my seat and rotated my shoulders. Japan's about 7 hours ahead, so I should be getting up around now anyways. Junpei flinched. Damn, no wonder you look wrecked. Yukari twisted back in her seat to face him. At it again, huh? I swear, you'll talk to anyone who will listen. Junpei turned to her with a smile. Hey, it's Yuka-tan! Didn't think we'd be in the same class again this year. Yukari sighed. Don't you think you might be bothering someone? For the record, apparently he always looks like that. Junpei turned to me with surprise. Seriously? Man, I was just being friendly. Yukari sighed. If you say so. She turned to me. Anyways, looks like we're in the same homeroom. Aye. I was still fairly tired and was slipping into English, so I corrected myself. That's good. Yukari smiled. Yeah, tough being the new kid without anyone you know. Junpei looked mildly offended. Hello? Are you forgetting that I'm in this class too? His expression changed to a smirk as he slid between us, leaning on my desk. By the way, he began, looking fairly malevolent, I heard you two came to school together this morning. What's up with that? Come on, give me the dirt. Yukari looked shocked and leaned back. What are you talking about? We live in the same dorm. It seemed natural logic to me that two people with the same origin and destination would travel together, but Asians have weird logic. There's nothing going on, okay? Yep, good old perverse Japan. Why are we even talking about it? Only the Japanese would automatically assume a relationship from that, unless we were holding hands or actually flirting, which we weren't. I'm subtle. Yukari sighed. Now you have me worried. She turned back to me, rant apparently over. Hey, you didn't say anything to anyone about... She hesitated, remembering Junpei was part of the conversation. You know what, did you? While that sounded slightly suspicious out of context, it sounded more like a secret than something sexual, even for Junpei. So I shook my head. Nope. Okay, good. Yukari leaned on my desk, coming closer to me and lowering her voice. Seriously, don't say anything about last night, alright? Okay, I take that back. There is no way that anyone on the planet would interpret that as anything other than me sleeping with her. Junpei actually jumped to his feet in shock. Yukari looked at him. What? Junpei stammered. Last night? Pause. Okay, because I read this when I was 14, or I was a child. I'm an old man now. That was half my lifespan ago. I really don't like how SamJaz has to explain everything. Like, the audience is smart enough to gather this information. The audience is smart enough. There is no way anyone on that planet would interpret that as, and we know that, and not only do we know that, but the characters around are going to respond accordingly. The audience isn't stupid. Furthermore, the audience probably played the game, so they're familiar with this dialogue, which is 1-to-1 with the original game. Why the hell does he do this? Why the hell did this engage me so much? Oh, because I was 14. Yukari jumped to her feet, blushing. Wait a minute, don't get the wrong idea. I considered helping her, but I reckoned anyone stupid enough to say that in front of a schoolboy, much less a Japanese one who thinks you're in a relationship with a person you said it to, deserved what they got. Junpei turned to me, holding out his hand for a 5. Dude, you Brits got skills! But Yukari slapped his wrist away. Listen, I just met him yesterday and there's absolutely nothing between us. I then realized what had happened and made a mental note to strangle Junpei in his sleep. Jeez, Yukari calmed down. I've gotta go. I've got something to take care of for the archery team. You better not start any rumors. With that, she stormed off. Once she was gone, Junpei turned back to me, holding his palms in the air in a shrug. Who cares? No one takes rumors seriously anyways. He let his hands fall down to his sides. Shh, she's so paranoid. Say, he said, leaning on my desk with one hand. Is there anything going on between you two? Not anymore, now that Junpei had got Yukari to deny any possibility of it, but I decided to let him off easy and shake his head. Shake his head? Shake my head? Do you shake your own head or do you shake? He shook his head. He took homeboy's head and he was like, well. But hey, it's your first day here and people are already talking about you. Believe it or not, she's actually pretty popular. Even if you just walked to school with her, you'd a man. Junpei ended up walking home with me until we could see the dorm. See ya, he said, and set off in the opposite direction. I could tell his house was nowhere near here, and judging from his pace, he was in no rush to get home. That ruled out being clingy and brought forward a second, more serious theory. I sighed and ended up following him, asking him to come with me to get some stuff as an excuse to spend more time with him. He seemed delighted, but hid it badly under a groan. Go on then if you really need my help. I was pretty tired and really wanted some actual sleep. That nap I got at school only made me even more tired, but I kept myself going. We ended up going to Polonia Mall to buy some stuff I didn't think to pack, mostly Tupperware containers and a label maker. Apparently, if I want to keep food in a dorm, I need to label everything. I didn't have the heart to tell him my room had a mini fridge, but I went along with it. We ended up going to some music, so I could get some actual music. Apparently, my music collection was lacking, but I couldn't get Junpei to appreciate the classics. You know, Zeppelin, AC/DC, Marley, Nirvana, Meatloaf, Chili's, Blink-182, and Clapton weren't good enough. I already had a few J-rock bands as well. Nightmare, Asian Kung Fu Generation, Black Mages. But Junpei made me endure listening to J-pop for almost half an hour. Actually, Lotus Juice weren't that bad, so I got that. Karaoke 4724/7, I got 11 persecuted by heaven. Ugh. For the record, I fucking hate Lotus Juice. A whole lot of bitches on the motherfucking dance floor. Yeah, and then you wish that you could fast forward. We eventually grabbed a pastry from the coffee shop and went our separate ways. Having done my good deed for the day, I headed back to the dorm that would be my home for the next couple of years, chewing on my Danish and humming along to the song I just bought. Burn my dream. Driblet dark, ticking clock. When I got back to the dorm, it was already dark. I noticed Mitsuru sitting on the couch, reading. I didn't catch the title, but I saw it was in French. Noticing me, she said, "Welcome back." Noticing how I looked, she said, "You must be tired. Go get some sleep. You've got school tomorrow." With that, she turned back to her book. Nodding, I took her advice. I passed a confident-looking guy, probably a year older than me despite his gray hair. He nodded at me, saying, "Hey." He walked up to the coat hangers and slung a jacket over his shoulder. He didn't put it on. He just held it by the collar and swung it over his shoulder. "I'm going out for a bit," he said, slinging his jacket over his shoulder. He said, presumably to Mitsuru. Mitsuru barely looked up from her book. The older lad walked towards the door. "Didn't you see the newspaper? There's a lot going on." "I've been waiting for this." I smiled as I went upstairs. Gray hair was most likely going out for a scrap. I'd follow him next time. I could do with some action. No, right now I need sleep. So I walked into my room and got changed. I had just enough energy left to pack away the stuff I bought, putting the CD on the desk so I'd remember to copy it in the morning, and went to bed. I was out when my head hit the pillow. Alright, let's do one more chapter. Fuck it, how long is this one? Chapter 3. It felt much better the next day, having actually got some decent sleep. Actually, I felt great. It It was probably the fact that coffin time happens at midnight, giving me an extra hour to sleep. But that didn't change the fact that I got up a half an hour. Fuck! But that didn't change the fact that I got up a half an hour before my alarm. So I decided to take my time and decided to make myself an omelet after my shower. Humming to myself, I saw the gray-haired boy from last night, and he looked knackered. Not tired like I normally do, but positively drained. Must have been some fight. As the half-asleep albino staggered into the shower, I looked at the ingredients I had left and, pulling out a second frying pan, decided to do my good deed of the day early. The boy came out of the shower after a few minutes, toweling his hair but looking awake. He saw me cooking and sniffed. "Smells good." I turned around and passed him the first omelet. "You look like hell." "He's Australian now," I said, sliding the second omelet onto my plate before he got the chance to refuse. Passing him a fork, he smiled and accepted. "Thanks." As we ate, we got talking, me doing the listening as usual. His name as Akihiko Sanada. I think that name is spelled wrong too. I think Sanada is spelled with 3 A's in the game. Whatever. His name as Akihiko Sanada, and was in the room opposite mine. He was a boxer, and had lived in the dorm since middle school, around the same time Mitsuru moved there. From the way he didn't talk about his family, and the fact that he moved to this dorm from another dorm, I deduced that he didn't have one. I turned out to be right, as he told me as he opened up more and more. He flat out denied that he'd been in a fight the previous night, and I understood why. If the captain of the boxing team in any school got caught street fighting, he'd get kicked out before he could claim self-defense. Yukari came down the stairs, and I mentally kicked myself for not making another 2 omelets. Thankfully, we'd already eaten the evidence when she said, "Senpai? Don't you normally have your morning jog right about now? What is she, his fucking secretary?" I realized why he woke up so early as he frantically checked his watch. "Huh? Damn it. Damn it! Huh? Damn it!" He rushed out the door, grabbing his jacket. "Thanks for breakfast, bye." I cleared up the plates and washed the dishes as Yukari asked, "Breakfast?" I shrugged. I got up early, so I decided to make myself an omelet. Akihiko looked like hell, so I made him 1-2. "So you two are that close already?" Mitsuru walked down the stairs, looking beautiful as ever. I was confused by what she said, and I realized that I forgot the honorific. Sorry, I keep forgetting that." I explained that honorifics were next to obsolete back home, so I wasn't used to them yet. Mitsuru chuckled, saying I'd get used to it, which of course meant that I'd better start remembering. Anyway, Yukari-san started. "Mitsuru-senpai and I both have practice to go to, so I'll see you at school." "Okay, sure." "Practice?" "I'm captain of the fencing team and student council, and Takeba's in the archery club." I nodded, noting their use of honorifics, confirming my theory on their relationship. "And Akihiko-senpai is captain of the boxing team?" Yukari nodded. "That's right." She noticed the clock. "Oh shoot, we're gonna be late." Mitsuru nodded, picking up a second bag. "I'll take Akihiko's school bag to him. I'll see you later, Arizoto." The two walked to the door as Mitsuru continued. "Remember to lock the door when you leave." I nod, putting the dried plates and pans back in the cupboard. I love that he jumps from present tense to past tense. Why am I such a critic? I don't even fucking read. I went upstairs to grab my laptop so I could copy my music while I made my lunch. Not confident with my Japanese cooking, I opted for a good old BLT. Feeling generous once again, I made a few extra, just in case. Everyone loved a good BLT. I checked my emails as I washed up again, and I replied to my aunt and uncle, telling them that I was settling in fine and making friends. I considered asking them to send my guitar, but I didn't want it damaged. To hell with it. I love my axe, but not enough to let it gather dust for a couple of years just to keep it in mint condition. Stressing the need for lots of bubble wrap in my mail, clicked send and closed down my machine. Stressing the need for lots of bubble wrap in my mail, clicked send and closed down. That's an incomplete sentence. I stressed the need for lots of bubble wrap in my mail, clicked send and closed down my machine. That's what you want to say, Sam. That's what you want to say. You should have had me proofread this. You should have asked me, 14-year-old me, to proofread this with my PlayStation 3 internet browser. I would have done you wonders. Checking everything was in place, I set off for school, remembering to lock the door behind me. As I approached the school gates, I heard some girls talking. "Anataha kiki mashita ka the rumor?" I only heard the last part by chance, recognizing it only because we said the word rumor so much yesterday. I decided to listen, just in case it was about me and Yukari. Son, damn it. Oh, something about a bathroom? I was just about to breathe a sigh of relief when the first girl spoke again. No, not that one. I mean the one about the first-year student. I was just about to breathe a sigh of relief when the first girl spoke again. No, not that one. I mean the one about the first-year student. Not only did she stop coming to school, she does nothing but sit and stare at the walls all day. If her mother tries to talk to her, she only mutters to herself, "It's coming, it's coming." Huh, replied the second girl. How about that? You don't believe me? The first girl seemed offended, but I could tell she didn't believe a word of it herself. Sighing, I made my way inside the school. Foreshadowing. Not much happened through the rest of the school day. Junpei-kun forgot his lunch, so I passed him one of my sanis. He looked at me like I'd just offered him a kidney. Yukari-san took one of my spares, saying I owed her for not making breakfast. We had a good laugh with that, especially when we saw Junpei-kun's face. Throughout the afternoon, the only eventful thing that happened was Ms. Toriyomi asked Junpei-kun who her favorite author was, most likely because she didn't think he was listening because she told us a few seconds ago. I wrote down the answer on my page, and thankfully Junpei-kun saw it and gave the right answer. Ms. Toriyomi was impressed and carried on thinking Junpei-kun was listening. Thanks, man, you saved my bacon again. Subtle pun there, but I ignored it. Pay attention next time. I considered hanging out with Junpei after school again, but he already left. I wondered Yukari-san had archery club again, so here I was alone. Here I was alone. I considered going out and socializing, but I really wasn't in the mood, so I reckoned I'd walk back to the dorms, learn the lay of the land. I had to admit it was a nice city. No one tried to mug me or anything. I sighed. These guys didn't know how good they had it. A city that's actually nice. I walked past some guys harassing some other kid and smiled inside. They didn't even have any knives. Deciding I could use the exercise, I walked down the alley and dropped my bag against the wall. Later, I was coming out of the bathroom, having just washed the blood from my knuckles. Oh, don't worry, I didn't go overboard. Hell, I didn't even mean to break the poor blighter's nose. Actually, I kneed that one guy in the face, so that was expected, but the other three went down after only a couple of punches. Okay, so one of them got elbowed, twice. Once in the neck. Fine then, I went overboard. But come on now, how can you expect to extort money from someone if you can't actually brawl? I took my seat with the guys I saved. They were buying me, the guys plural? You saved plural guys? They were buying me a meal from a takeout called Wild Duck Burger. I noticed that they'd ordered fat American size. The fries were served in a small bucket, and the milkshake was a couple of liters at least. As for the burger, well, let's just say that it'd be a challenge, even for me. Once again, I didn't talk much for the conversation. The meal was freaking massive! I eventually made my way through the burger and noticed that I still had my bucket of fries and drink. Then one of my new mates, I hadn't bothered to learn their names, asked me the important question. So, where did you learn martial arts? The other two were silent and turned to face me. Obviously, they wanted to kick the crap out of people, and I knew enough that they were the last kind of people you want to teach martial arts to. At least not until after you teach them self-discipline. So I told the truth. Then, the guys were shocked, as if I'd announced I was a wizard. But you fought those guys! I put down my drink and looked them in the eye. Fighting is not martial arts. Martial arts are about form, discipline, theory, art. When I fight, it's not because I was trained to become the strongest or because I know techniques. I learned to fight like that because people are less likely to kick your head in if they think you're a bloody ninja. I actually used the literal translation of bloody by accident there, but it seemed to make my point more effective. I'm not strong, so I'm fast, brutal, devastating. That impresses people and makes them leave me alone. I decided that I talked enough for now and went back to my fries. They'd be great if they weren't so greasy. Wait, if SamJaz is English, wouldn't he call them chips? What do you mean fries? They're chips, right? Because he's British? Well, I mean, I don't know what part of the UK or what part of the UK he's from. Is chips not a thing? Like, is that not just a general English thing? But you came to help us. I shrugged. Oddly, those guys were posers. I don't know what a Yorkshire accent sounds like. Oh, fuck me. I need to do some character study.
Yorkshire? Should I say what I like and I like what I bloody well say? Whippet, tetly, frugal, cricket.
Cricket.
Country.
Country.
Above.
Above. Okay, it's really up in here. You really gotta get up in here.
I might explode.
I might explode. Hardly. Wait, how does she say R? Hardly. I need to watch this whole 20-minute video about Yorkshire accents. I'm doing it. I'm honoring SamJaz. Okay, H's are kind of silent.
You can hear him shouting, "Ip, ip, hooray."
You can hear him shouting, "Ip, ip, hooray."
How did it happen?
How did it? Oddly, those guys were posers.
The barn floor were warm.
The barn floor were warm.
No, I'm bored.
I'm on board.
I never yearn to burn.
I never yearn to burn. That's bars. Okay, fuck it. Oddly, those guys were posers. The three of them just stared at me, so I elaborated. If you grew up where I did, you'd recognize it straight away. They'd never been in a real fight. They've never threatened someone at knife point and met it. Or thrown a half brick. Fuck! Or thrown a half brick at a copper. Never been gouged by a broken bottle. Broke a chair on someone's back. Thrown a petrol bomb at someone's car. Or got drunk and started a riot. I realized I was talking far more than I normally did, but I really wanted to get this point across. That's what I've seen the bad kids are like where I'm from. Most schoolyard punch-ups end with a knife wound. Guys get shot for being the wrong color. Hell, I've seen a 10-year-old kid threaten a policeman with a meat cleaver once. I looked up and took satisfaction from the scared faces. Now, to be fair, I was talking about the chavs down in London while I was from Yorkshire. While Leeds and Manchester was no Utah, it made the capital city look like hell in comparison. Actually, it's a pretty accurate description. London is a pretty scary place. Okay, I'm not gonna do the accent unless it's dialogue, because it's gonna get awful really quick. I stood up, folding my fries into a smaller box. Look, you want to be able to win fights? They nodded. Push-ups, sit-ups, learn to take a beating, lose your fear, both for getting hurt and hurting the other guy. Don't hold back and fight with each other. Do it right and you'll learn to read people and the movements. Punch through your target. Practice using your elbows and your knees. And most of all, don't think about getting out of there alive. I could see their eyes sparkling already. I threw my satchel over my shoulder. Bear yourself to your enemy. Let him graze your skin so you can pound his flesh. Let him pound your flesh while you break his bones. Let him break your bones while you kick his ass. Oh yeah, Bruce Lee was badass. There are no rules to a fight. Just cause you surrender doesn't mean he'll stop. Likewise, anything goes, but avoid the eyes and balls. You don't want someone's blindness on your conscience, and just because it hurts doesn't mean it does damage. I picked up my drink and began walking for the door. Thanks for the meal. That is way too much. This is the most that Misato has spoken so far. This dialogue here is more than he's spoken through the last 3 chapters. The fries and drink lasted me all the way to the dorm, even though it was evening by the time I got back. When I got in, Yukari-san was sitting on the couch talking to some older chap in a mullet. "Oh," she said, noticing me as I came through the door. "He's back. So this is our new guest." As they both stood up, he automatically struck me as creepy, but I had learned to ignore first impressions. As Yukari had proved, they were usually wrong. I need to do a Ikutsuki voice. "Good evening. My name is Shuji Ikutsuki. I'm the chairman of the board for your school." Ikutsuki. Hard to say, isn't it? That's why I don't like introducing myself. Even I get tongue-tied sometimes. Please, have a seat. There you go. There you go. He's merely friendly boss creepy, not sexual deviant creepy. Similar enough at first glance, but it is vital not to confuse them, or else you'd be out of school guidance counselors. As we all sat down, Boss Man brushed himself down and started talking again. "I apologize about the confusion regarding your accommodations. However, it may take a while longer before you receive a proper room." I don't know why I'm doing Kermit the Frog. "However, it may take a while longer before you receive proper room assignment. Is there anything you'd like to ask?" I'm just gonna make him Kermit. Fuck Shuji, man. Plenty, but I doubt I can ask the right questions in Japanese. I was actually suspicious of his presence here, so I took a stab in the dark. The other night I saw... The two of them jumped, and I knew I hit the mark. You've probably guessed by now, but I've spent a lot of time dealing with stabs in the dark. Yukari clearly looked uncomfortable, but I had no intention of finishing my sentence. I just wanted to see how this guy would react. "You saw something strange?" he said. "Like what?" Nothing. I yawned. I was probably just tired. Like I said, I was a good liar, as well as an observant and manipulative blighter. Akutsuki laughed. Well, you should probably get to bed then. You're still adjusting to the time difference, you know. I hope you have a successful school year. Now, if you'll excuse me. Akutsuki stood up and began to walk towards the stairs. Stopping just behind me, he added, You know what they say, the early bird gets the bookworm. Akutsuki chuckled, and I rescored him from suspicious to spawn of Satan. Please forgive the bad pun, he said as he continued towards the stairs. Never. Anything with a bad sense of humor that bad couldn't possibly possess their own soul. Yukari-san turned to me, a mix of a sigh, embarrassment, and contempt on her face. You get used to his lame jokes. I hope not. I checked my email again as I was walking up the stairs to bed. Uncle agreed to send me my guitar as well as some other stuff, which was handy. I closed it down and got changed. I felt like I was being watched somehow, but I knew I was just being paranoid. Once again, I was asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. Welcome to the Velvet Room, my dear young man. So we'll stop there. I've been reading for about 2 hours now. We got to the point where we are now diverging a little bit from the main story. We've learned that Minato is like a bit of a scrapper, and like things are being a little bit more. We're learning more about what makes him different from the canonical protagonist of the story. So we're getting to the more interesting parts now. I will say these first few chapters are a real freaking slog, but again, this is 100 chapters long. If you were reading this while it was coming out, you knew that he was intending to retell the entire game. So like, as a teenager, I really appreciated just seeing what's essentially like a novelization of this game that I loved. But as an adult reading this, I can just see so many of like the retelling parts of the game that already happened in the game, like without changing anything. A lot of that stuff just feels really like bleh. Like it's like I'm not super interested in it. Like I'm more interested in the original content, and so much of the story early on was just a one-to-one retelling of the original game. And I really hope it diverts more real quick, because I remember as a kid I really loved the parts where he would divert from the main story while still adhering to the main story, but he would be like, here's an original little side story where, you know, me and Junpei do this one thing, or like, and in the main game you don't get to see that. Like, you know that you hang out with Junpei, but you don't see what they do, so at least he goes into it more. Or like the intricacies of living in a dorm, which the game kind of glazes over. I like that kind of stuff, but it's all the other stuff that's kind of like, fuck man, just get over it, man. Oh my god. Anyway, I'm having fun. I'm not really much for reading out loud. Like I'm not really experienced in this, so I don't really know how this is gonna go. And I lost my voice about halfway through that, so I don't know how that's gonna go. I'm having fun, so if you're a fan of this story, or if you're enjoying it and you like SamJaz and Persona 3 like I do, let me know. If people watch this, I will continue it. If like 10 people watch this, I might continue it, because I think my friends will get a kick out of it. But I don't know, we'll see. So yeah, thanks for watching, and this has been Persona 3 Fairly English Story, written by SamJaz and narrated by yours truly, El Doinko.